Hello and welcome to another edition of the Forum webinar series. With us today here is Mr. Henry Onyebuchi. We're extremely excited to have him in the house. He's a senior smart contract engineer. He has so much success with this particular niche, especially with the smart contract development. You know, one thing with Forum here is that we do not take these things for granted. So we bring people that have had proven track records, especially in bringing and delivering this particular technology. Let's quickly meet Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry, welcome, welcome. So, welcome to the program. Let's meet you a bit.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. I'm really privileged to be speaking with you today. So, I'm Henry Onyebuchi. I'm a senior solidity engineer. I've been in the blockchain space since 2016, but I started working actively in the blockchain space since 2018. I've been involved in some startup projects. I've done some freelance and open source contributions as well in the space. I've also spent some period of my career helping Web2 developers onboard into the Web3 space. And yeah, I'm happy to be here speaking with you guys and looking forward to having a wonderful time together. Thank you.
Okay, yes. So you heard it from the horse's mouth. Has actually done a couple of things on that particular development, especially with the human capacity side. And truly, he has a few days ago when we were talking, preparing for this particular webinar, we were looking at how to be able to impact you guys, especially in this niche set, and seeing that you guys are able to also replicate this in your business and have these applications, especially in your business. But before we start, as we wait for many of our audience to quickly come on board, before we start, let's show a bit of gratitude. So, for me today, what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for the success of this particular webinar. This is our fourth webinar series in a space of 2 months, and it has been extremely exciting. We've had the best coming, and we are set to be able to deliver. So this I'm extremely grateful for, and I'm grateful for life. How about you, Mr. Hero Yebuchi? What are you grateful for?
Okay, for me, I just started my YouTube channel. It's majorly geared towards helping to onboard Solidity developers. So I've had it in mind to do it for quite some time, but I finally broke the jinx yesterday. So I'm really grateful for that. Yeah.
All right, so we'll be putting in that particular YouTube channel link at the below the description of this video once we are done with this particular live webinar series, so that you guys can also check it out and also be able to follow up on what is happening currently, especially with Web3 technologies and with the world at large. So as we kickstart today, truly smart understanding smart contracts and their applications. 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, yeah, 2 weeks ago, we had about like more like the part A of this smart contracts, and we were able to define smart contracts. We're also able to look at how well the Nigerian space can quickly be able to push on this part. Today, we want to be able to delve deeper, well, especially with someone that has proven track record in it, and say, okay, how can we actually understand this smart contract that we've spoken about and their true applications, especially in Africa? So for me, some of the applications for these things, like I know with what I've been reading, about 4 or 5 years ago, my father actually bought a couple of land. And here in Warri, when you buy land, you might quickly start. Okay, so there are always terrible problems, especially with land. But do you know what happened? They actually lost about 9 acres of land. And I read truly that Web3 technologies can actually help. Blockchain can actually help. So I want to quickly ask the experts in the house now. That's truly how can Web3 technologies be leveraged to build secure and transparent smart contracts, especially based on the land registry systems in Africa?
Okay, that's a good question. So I would say it mainly depends on standardization first of all, right? And the parties, by parties I mean the bodies that are responsible for land ownership and land selling and all of that. So it mainly depends on them to agree to adopt, blockchain, and then adopt the registration of these assets on chain. So if these assets can have data on the blockchain, including ownership data and all of that, then definitely, if they agree to, adopt, right, then definitely blockchain can solve the problem. We won't have an issue knowing who is the owner of a particular piece of land, and when this, because you can definitely see transaction details, and then you can see what happened in what transaction. You can be able to tell what a particular transaction was for, and then you'll be able to see who the owner is. So then there will be no room for forgery, because then everything, you have it on chain. So you don't need anybody to come tomorrow and start claiming your land with you when you can just see it on the blockchain. So that's what I would say.
So you said it depends on standardization, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so which bodies truly can we now go on, can actually make this particular standardization to happen? Because when you look at it, some of us are possibly getting into, yeah, some of us here that are possibly buying our first land. There are some of us here that possibly have had this particular problem for the first time, and then a couple of us too truly might not really know a deep have a deep knowledge about what it is, which bodies are out about it, which bodies can actually do and make this a reality in Africa, especially relating it to our context here.
Okay, so to be honest with you, as much as I understand the logical and engineering part of it, so I won't say I know all the bodies, right? The legal bodies and government bodies and all of that. However, I know that they exist, and if you want to build this kind of solution, you would ultimately need to go through them, because I mean, they have the documents of the land, right? So I know there are some projects trying to do this in Africa. I know House Africa is one of them, and I know there are also some that are solving this using NFTs. So it's just all about getting the metadata of the piece of land or the property. The metadata could involve its location, the dimension, and any other, relevant information about this piece of land, and then that metadata can be used to mint an NFT, and the NFT uh, would need to be linked to this metadata, basically. So the approved body, or the body that supersedes this kind of transaction for this kind of property, if they recognize that smart contract, or that contract address, as a valid contract address that represents the properties, then everybody will be able to have free trade and use the system.
Hey, so you have so that means truly my father could have actually been able to possibly have those particular lands when he bought them, maybe put some of the coordinates of that particular land on the blockchain. Maybe they have a digital signing of it. Now say, okay, now that this has been signed, we can create this as an NFT, this as an NFT, and it can be minted on chain, which is now
I think I lost you a bit. I don't know if it's me or you, but I think someone has gone off. Can you hear me, Rumi? Okay, I think that was from just what.
The network is bad.
Uh, Welcome back.
Yes, a slight glitch there. There was
Yeah.
a slight glitch there. So yeah, we're at a position where we're looking at this particular technology for us being able to ensure that we can correct most of the things that have happened. There are some of us on this live stream calls that have bought lands, then they lost it. They maybe the lands of your fathers, your great grandfathers, you don't even have records of those things. Sometimes you have these things, one family is fighting over this, the other family is fighting over that, and each and every single thing, as Mr. Henry has just said now, these things can be solved using Web3. All you need to do is to be able to have the metadata of that particular land, and that metadata is uploaded on the blockchain. You can put in some of the coordinates, especially like where Mr. Henry is speaking from and where I am speaking from and where each and every single one of you are watching from. There's a coordinate to that place. And that coordinates, if you can, just the same way you can use Google Earth to be able to pinpoint that particular place, these coordinates can now be uploaded on the blockchain, and these things can now be truly done through Web3 technology. Is that right? Did I get it right, Mr. Henry?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so you are making mention of something. You said NFTs. I want to quickly ask that what are some of the most promising use cases of NFTs in Africa, and truly how can they be used to support economic growth and cultural preservation?
Okay. Yeah, so I definitely think in many ways. These days, people are using NFTs for literally anything. So people are using NFTs as we know it for digital art, but also physical art as well. And then using they're using NFTs for membership, for collectibles. So it might be a game or it might be some kind of adventure that where you can find some Easter eggs or some kind of collectibles, and they use NFTs for this. They can use it for properties, like I said, for land, for physical assets as well. It's just all about defining what the NFT should be used for. It can also be used for tickets. It can be used for proof of attendance certificates. It can be used for literally anything that you want to use it to do these days. So with regards to how it can influence the economy, so it depends on, of course, we need to adopt blockchain because blockchain is a more secure and transparent way of storing data and transferring data. So, if, as let's say, we adopt blockchain in many of the areas of what we're doing, and then let's say we now start using NFTs for land in that to represent land, or just like how South Africa and the rest of them are trying to do. So in that case, you'd see that, of course, NFTs, blockchain will be influencing the economy, and also with regards to national assets, could be museum, could be conservative areas in Africa also. Um, I mean, most of those artifacts and what we find in those museums, they could as well be minted as NFTs. And then who knows? You never can tell. Tourists or different people of interest could buy that, and that would definitely influence the economy. So there are many ways to go about it, and there are many ways people are using NFTs. It's mainly about what is behind the NFT, not the NFT. The NFT is just a tool. So what's this NFT behind? What's this NFT about? So it's mainly about that value that the NFT carries. That's what would make someone else bring the money. Of course, they would know that they'll be safe because the NFT is on blockchain. So if I want to buy a piece of land and I'm buying it directly from an agent, I mean, it might be hard for me to decide. But if I see that it's blockchainized and I can buy it through an NFT, I'll definitely opt into it. So at least that will help my decision as well, and to make I believe it will make the market more active, like people buying and selling. So yeah, that's why I think it can influence.
Okay, that was actually an explicit answer that you gave, and it was very apt. Looking at your last statement when you were talking about it being safe, there was a video I was watching on the internet last week. It was talking about, especially with the rise of AIs, right? This particular AI, and then you can use AI software and tools to be able to quickly clone a lot of people. And I think there was a video that actually went viral that Rogan or something like that. They cloned him, right, endorsing a particular product with the AI video, and they could not even differentiate it. However, when the real guy now saw that, what, I did not endorse this, my brand did never endorse this, it now got each and every single person talking and saying that, okay, what is actually the way we can be you that can mitigate against such thing? Because with the rise of AI like this, you see that that means Mr. Henry can be cloned, and then somebody can say you sold one land, or somebody can say you have endorsed a lot of products. And one of the major thing that I got from that is that with NFTs now, NFT actually is the only way to mitigate against that type of situation. With NFTs now, if not for the rise of NFTs, that means if AI clones you and you cannot have something that is a digital identity that only you have issued out to people, that means anybody can claim anything around the globe. So talking about safety, NFTs truly have actually been able to help us to see that, okay, whatever it is, if you can be able to purchase this limited collection, or if you have these NFTs, then you can be able to have access to what? To my digital identities. We have a lot of questions coming in from the comment section. So guys, please, you can drop your comment section as you hear Mr. Henry pushing all of this. Quickly drop the question in the comment section so that we can quickly take them. But there's a question here that I want us to take. I don't know if you can see that particular question. Person is
Okay.
saying, with respect to smart contracts, how do we use it to protect our wallets?
Okay. Yeah, so that's a good question. So it depends on what context the wallet and the smart contract are coming in on. So first of all, smart contracts are self-executing um, agreement or business logic, contracts that has its term of agreement in code, in its terms of agreement in code. So to interact with a smart contract, to be able to carry out a transaction on a smart contract, it means that you should be allowed, first of all, by the developer of that smart contract to be able to carry out the kind of transaction you're wanting to carry out. So with regards to users that want to connect their wallet to any smart contract, you need to be sure of the project that you're trying to connect your wallet to, because you need to be able to vouch that the methods that they've provided for you to execute, it could be a trade, it could be any kind of an investment stake or whatever, right? So you need to be sure that those methods are not malicious and they will not in fact collect money from your account, or just leave you stranded, or sell tokens to you that you won't be able to send out of your wallet, or those type of things. So usually, users, it's your due diligence. It's up to you to make sure that you're not using a random decentralized application that you don't know anything about. You need to demand for, or the community needs to see or have access to the auditing reports, because every smart contract that before a smart contract comes out to the public, it must have gone through some type of audit by third party. So if you can have access to that, and then if you can have access to the team, the community, and trust the community, it's always risky, but you just need to trust the community. And for you to be able to trust them, they should show you some things, either the auditing reports or some other things that will just give you the rest of mind that you're not using a malicious smart contract or decentralized application. So that's what I would say.
So doing your due diligence and ensuring that you trust the team too that is providing such smart contracts, just that so that they might not have embedded anything inside the smart contract before your money will go for vanishing.
Yes, I mean, there are many of these kind of scams. So there are many of them. This kind of smart contracts that you just interact with today, and they are going to like set up this infinite approval in your wallet, even that they'll be able to steal even future funds that get into your wallet, because they have this infinite approval to always withdraw any balance you have. That kind of scenario. So there are also some smart contracts, some that kind of conduct sales, where you send them assets and then they'll give you an equivalent amount of tokens. However, these tokens might have some malicious logic in them that will make sure you can't sell them back. So you cannot, they just remain in your wallet for life. when you get them, and then you would lose that money. So it's not like you bought something that you can sell later. So there are many ways and vulnerabilities out there for people to watch, to take note of. So that's why it's very important that before you interact with an application, you familiarize yourself with the community behind the application, so that you know that they are real people, right, trying to work for good, and not because some communities can be tricky sometimes. You can see a bunch of people come together and act all organic, but they're just all foul players, so make sure you know the community. If possible, if you can get access to the security reports of the decentralized application, go ahead for it. And then also look out for the people talking about the project. Anybody you can vouch for that vouches for the project. So maybe that can help you decide. But it's right now the way it is in the space, it's mainly on the user to do the due diligence.
Okay, very good. You can see truly this. You said something about some tokens when you try to swap them, and then you are unable to swap them. How your money starts going for vanishing. A friend of mine 3 weeks ago was telling me something. Her name is okay. Let me just keep her name because of the sake of public listening. But actually, she posted this on all of our social media too, because she was hacked. Her wallet was hacked and all our money just went for vanishing. The situation you also made mention of, is that situation the same thing as honeypotting? Because I remember from what I was reading about this smart contract wallet, this in some tokens or some particular assets, they put a particular malicious code called honeypot. As you try to swap, your money is going away. As you try to swap, your money continues to go away. Is that the same thing as honeypotting, especially in respect to this?
So basically, I'm not very familiar with the term, but of course it might be a very popular term. Don't get me wrong, but definitely maybe on the swap method, that is the standardized method that every decentralized exchange will use to try to transfer a particular token. On that particular asset, they must have integrated some vulnerable logic that would take funds from the wallet trying to make the call, rather than do the normal transfer as described by the EIP20, that's ERC20 standard. Of course, they will have the same signature, which is the transfer method, but then inside the code, they do the vulnerable thing. So even when you're trying to swap and the exchange tries to call that method, which should be available, the method does something else. So yeah, it's possible. So another very critical part is the private key. So that's the number one first. When having a wallet, you have responsibility of your private key. So should you ever lose, or should someone else ever have access to that private key, it no longer belongs to you. So is the first point of security first, and then making sure that you interact with the right decentralized exchanges, the second
All
decentralized
right.
application rather. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Talking about these decentralized applications, because I mean, some of these wallets too are actually dApps, right? Because that's the short form of the decentralized application. I want to quickly
Yeah.
ask, the fact that I've also looked at these developers in imputing malicious code, especially to be able to get into people's wallets and all that, truly, truly, what are the key challenges facing developers that are building dApps for African users? And how can these challenges be overcome through innovative design and development approaches? So, what are the challenges facing developers building dApps for African users?
With regards to, sorry, I didn't understand the question clearly. Is it with regards to security, um, or just with regards to what exactly? Like, based on challenges? Is it based on the
Yes.
illustration earlier?
Yes, based on the illustration that we've given, right? A lot of these
Okay.
wallets, like let's say Trust Wallet,
Okay.
MetaMask, just name these different wallets.
Yeah.
They are decentralized applications.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find out that even Africans, their developers, they truly build some of these dApps. So when they build some of these dApps, what are the key challenges that these developers truly face while building some of these dApps? And how can we actually overcome some of these challenges?
Okay, well, I won't say challenges based on development. The challenges might come in the area of making the design plans. For instance, before building a particular application, you know your users, you know the kind of users you have, you know if they are tech savvy, you know if you would need to do sensitization, if you would need to teach them about the product, you know if they will be able to handle their wallets, you'll be able to tell if it's a decentralized application you're trying to build. And then it's just mainly about making decisions on which blockchain to deploy on, which libraries to use, which node to use, and those are general design considerations, but I won't necessarily call them problems. But with regards to security, right? Um, every smart contract that goes out to the public should have gone through a third party audit. So don't trust. I don't believe any project or any African project that just launches like that without showing some kind of transparency to the users. I don't believe people would onboard. I mean, it's possible, right? But just for Africans, right, and for those who are going to be adopting this space, they need to request for transparency, request for security information about whatever is being built to make sure that what's said on the white paper, what's said on technical documentation is what is represented in the whole architecture of the project.
Okay, since we are talking about the technology of trust, which is the blockchain, you made
Yes.
mention of, you just said something that you don't trust some of the things that maybe some Africans might be able to want to do on the blockchain. And it is not, it
Sorry.
is to me, I don't know. I don't know.
No, it's not
How do
Africans.
we go beyond this
No,
point? How do we go
Africans
beyond
are
this
not even
point?
the bad guys, to be honest. No, but it's not African specific. I mean, it's global, right? Everywhere you find good people, you find bad people. They're always vulnerable and malicious people as and players, as we've seen from the past, from all the hacks that have happened in the entire DeFi and blockchain space. So it will keep happening. I don't think it will stop any moment soon. And developers in the space, that's the white hats, which everyone should aim to be. So the white hats, and of course, every user in the space should ensure that they are dealing with white hats before doing engaging or making any form of transaction with any project. It's really important because it's up to the user to do that due diligence and be sure. So there's always going to be room for we learn from mistakes and vulnerabilities and all that. There are different hacks that have happened in the past that everybody learns from every hack and knows exactly what happened. And if it's something that hasn't been treated before, everyone adopts and starts making that correction. But if it's an issue that was a fault from the developer, then they begin to ask and question if the particular smart contract was audited. And if it was audited, they begin to ask to know. So these questions will come out. So it's important that even a developer might not willingly want to, make funds to be stuck or lost or something like that. That's why it's important for them to, pass through the stage of audits before deploying to public networks where people can use applications.
That means just out of curiosity, have you had an experience or such?
No, I mean, for me personally, I'm proud to say that I've never had any smart contracts ready for deployment with any vulnerability. So the thing is, like most of the smart contracts that I've ever worked on, they all go through auditing, and the worst case scenario, they must go through the second or third solidity engineer. Just have extra eyes. If it's something that needs to be used internally and not by the public, sometimes it does not go through audits per se, but it goes through a third or second solidity engineer. But if it's something that must be used by the public, It has to go. It always goes through audit. So I've not had that issue, and I'm never like going to deploy on the public network without at least doing some precautions, which involve carrying out unit tests. So trying to test the smart contract and making sure I have a high coverage of test as well, like checking all the potential errors that could happen. In fact, simulates the entire life process of that smart contract and
Wow.
put in and get out everything that is expected before I even start thinking of going to deploy it on test network, not even main network. So those procedures are in play while while building a smart contract. So yeah, I mean, also using standardized libraries, making sure that you don't build everything from the scratch, because most of the standardized libraries, they are gas efficient, and they've been audited, and they have like there's no vulnerability in them. So sometimes you might want to start from there rather than starting from the scratch and reinventing the wheel, and opening yourself to potential vulnerabilities. So there are many ways and many checks that are in place to ensure, and there are also different tools to ensure that there's zero vulnerability on any application that goes out. Of course, there can still be vulnerabilities with all this, right? Even with audit and everything, there can still be vulnerabilities because we are humans. But the thing is, we learn from those vulnerabilities. And even though it goes through an audit, even when audit reports come, the auditing firm also encourages you to take it to another auditing firm. It's not very cheap, but they will still advise you to do that, right? Just so there's no room, because they know that this human error can always come to play. So we can miss out something, or the auditors can miss out something, and then people pay the price. But it's always good to simulate and make sure that everything responds correctly before going out public.
Okay, talking about standardized library and gas efficient blockchains that you can actually deploy some of these things. Out of curiosity, some of the junior developers here, as the senior developer that you are, some of the junior developers here might be curious to say, okay, which are some of the best standardized libraries to actually go to or interact with so that they don't have to start from the scratch? And what examples too can you give out for some gas efficient blockchains that they can actually implement, especially with their projects and while building these smart contracts?
Okay, so yeah, with regards to the standardized libraries for smart contracts specifically, one of the popular ones is Open Zeppelin. So they have this library of codes for different kinds of projects that you might want to start up, or different kinds of implementations that you might want to do that you don't necessarily require to build. You just need to focus on the logic of what you're building, or use these libraries within the context of what you're building to facilitate or how the logic works. So you might need to uh, do some arithmetic logic, and then let's say you're using a solidity version that has this overflow and underflow issue. So you might want to create your own library or take care of overflow and underflow yourself, which might make the calling that method or deploying the smart contract more expensive. However, there are already some existing libraries from Open Zeppelin. For instance, one is called SafeMat, that is available, where they have already taken care of the issues of overflows and underflows. So just for arithmetic logic, you don't need to go and start building an entire library to take care of that while those kind of utilities are already available. You just need to concentrate on working out the logic for the project you're building on currently, and know that those kind of things are already taken care of. So there are different ones. I mainly use Open Zeppelin because they have some of the boilerplates. And then yeah, so with regards to, what was the second question? If I got with regards to optimization, gas optimization, there are definitely various gas optimization techniques that learning solidity, that's when you would understand how to use these gas optimization techniques. But the thing to note is, so with gas optimization, there are two things that come in play. You can optimize for deployment cost at the expense of execution cost, or you can optimize for execution cost if you want your users to spend as low as possible at the expense of deployment cost. So it's going to be expensive, more expensive to deploy. So These are techniques that would, a solidity developer would need to learn, or a smart contract developer generally would need to like learn, understand the techniques while building smart contracts.
So, guys, you have heard it from the horse's mouth, the mouth of a senior smart contract developer. Understanding the recent programming languages, especially with this technological niche set, especially like Solidity, learning how to program on the Ethereum virtual machine, will ensure and see that it puts you 10 steps ahead of your co-programmers. And one of the best places that you guys know truly that has some of these courses is Vorum.co. And once you go online and be able to take some of these courses, we've been able to tailor these courses in such a way that Africans truly can leverage on this and understand it, because just like you are here in Africa, I am here in Africa, and I understand some of the inefficiencies that are available, especially with understanding this niche set, growing this niche set, and seeing that you yourself can also be able to replicate and bring out foreign revenue coming. Like, I mean, as a smart contract developer, you heard him. He has worked with both local brands and global brands. And when you are working with global brands, you know you are not going to be earning there. When you are earning your money, you'll be earning your money in foreign currency. So guys, do well to see that you are able to go online, you get a pick a solidity course. It's subscription based. You can get them as low as 5,000 naira and be able to see that you can start yourself 10 steps ahead of the curve. A quick question that has been in my mind that I really want to ask Mr. Henry is this. In terms of scalability and interoperability of smart contracts, right, especially in Africa, how can back-end developers ensure this interoperability and scalability? You, how can this backend developers ensure interoperability and scalability of smart contract based applications?
Yeah, so for interoperability and scalability, uh, there are different considerations. They need to first of all make sure that they first of all decide on the blockchain that they want to build on, and as well they should understand the features of that particular blockchain with regards to transactions, how transactions occur on the blockchain. They also have an idea of the quantity of users that they expect to use their application, and then they would need to determine what kind of routes, transaction routes, would be available for the users. So right now, with regards to scalability, there's this new, this coming. It's already people have already started adopting it. Account abstraction, EIP 4337. Yes. So it's account abstraction. It's a different way of interacting with dApps that was proposed by Vitalik himself, and people have started working on it. OpenZeppelin recently audited and gave a pass on implementation from, I think, Earth Infinism. So it's just a way of carrying out gasless transactions, not having to own Ether, but being able to carry out transactions. You just need signature, but there are different underlying flows that go on to be able to carry out the transaction for a user. Some people who might implement this might in some way collect those payments from the users, maybe in other assets. So yeah, it's all about deciding how you want the user to interact with the application you're building, and as well it's very important to use standardized methods and EIPs for interoperability, because you want others to be able to deal with you the way they're dealing other projects that are offering the same kind of service that you might be offering. So you want to use a standardized approach that other people have adopted, so that you can all operate together. So that's what I'll say.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Henry. Someone just asked me a question that why what is interoperability? Like it's like that particular word is too heavy for the guy. Okay, so quickly, interoperability, guys. Interoperability simply means that the ability for you to be able to interact with one platform, with for you to be able to interact with all your platforms. Just imagine now we're on YouTube now, right? As we're on YouTube, we have a lot of followers on Instagram, we have a lot of followers on Twitter, we have a lot of followers on Facebook. Personally, I have like over 7,000 followers on Facebook. I am on YouTube here trying to grow this particular channel, trying to grow this. We cannot just synergize all of our followers from all platforms and bring them here at once. With Web3 as a technology, or with the blockchain as a technology and Web3, we see that there is something called interoperability. Interoperability will now allow you to say, okay, I'm on YouTube, however, my followers on Facebook, Instagram, each and every single person, I can bring them to any platform per time that I want to use them. So you have like a synergy. One particular blockchain, you can use it to, or one particular wallet, or one particular transaction, you can use it to route across different blockchain. For example, let's say if you are on the Ethereum network, you can be able to send tokens to the Binance Smart Chain network. You can be able to send tokens to the Arbitrum network, the Stellar network, the Harmony One network. And truly, that is actually the simple definition of interoperability. I first of all use that first case of social media for you guys to understand it very well, and for you guys to see that truly there are some of you that have thousands of followers on Instagram and zero followers on Twitter, and you want to do a Twitter space, and you cannot find enough listeners on your Twitter, and then you have so much followers in the other platform. But with Web3 offers you a situation where you can actually harmonize all of this together, bring each and every one of these different followers and take them along with you from one platform to another platform as you move across the value chain. So that is actually the simple definition of interoperability. And one thing I quickly got from what he said is that for the scalability, you can use gas efficient blockchains. And with Open Zeppelin being able to also see that, okay, they've also done a couple of things like that. Even he was saying Vitalik in one of the last conferences has also pointed out how you can also go about this scalability. Um, how about like in Africa, there are areas with limited internet connectivity. So how can back-end developers ensure this scalability? Because you must
Where
be online.
unfortunately, we must all be online. So even with Web 2, right? So developing and all that, you need to be online. Why do you need to be online? You need to be online because you need your node to be connected, right? So you need to be online. So, like for instance, when backend developers work with on decentralized applications, they use a library, a Web3 library. So it could be Web3.js for JavaScript developers, or Web3.py for Python developers. It could be Ethers.js as well. These are Web3 libraries that you can use to interact with smart contracts and do some other actions. So to connect, you need the Web3 library and your RPC node to connect to blockchain, and then that's where internet is needed at that point. So you definitely need internet while doing this, while interacting with blockchain. Unfortunately, well, it's not. We should hope that in Africa we have more trusted service providers across every area and every location. So when we move towards that, it will definitely help promote blockchain and push for mass adoption.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm glad enough too that Elon Musk is also coming to help us with some of the situation. Yeah, at least we have Starlink now in Nigeria.
Yes, true.
So, so we can actually have some of these internet service providers shoved away and have very fast speed for internet. So
Yeah.
in terms of production, because there are three basic needs of man: food, clothing, and shelter. And it will be good for us to actually touch some of the things, especially in the agricultural sector, with the smart contract application, right? So it makes me, out of curiosity, I want to quickly ask that truly, what are some of the most promising applications of smart contracts, especially in Africa, and with applying it to the agricultural sector?
So they're different, and the thing is, blockchain can cut across every industry that exists currently. So you might need data storage, it might be logistics, it might be payment, it might be future agreements, so many areas. So with regards to agriculture, I know for a fact that Walmart, they used to do this thing with IBM back. Well, I don't think it's existing currently. They've done supply chain, blockchain for food. There are different ways definitely to go about it. It's just about knowing how for agriculture, it's about knowing how to utilize it, knowing what are the values or what are the components that represent value, knowing the components that represent payment, knowing the components that represent buy and sell, knowing the components that are to tell you when to farm and all that. So it's definitely playing a part in agriculture. I'm sure there are different projects that are handling it one way or another. Not sure exactly how they may be solving their issues, but there are a ton of issues that can be solved using blockchain. And supply chain is one as well, definitely in agriculture. And then in other industries as well, education, medicine, health, fintech, every other industry that has something to do with data or that wants to store something in a way that people won't feel like, are you sure of this thing you did? Right? Like most of the times, you need to trust even Jamb. Down when you write your Jamb, you need to trust them that you scored 200, right? Because they marked it. But with blockchain on most of these things, you'll be able to see everything transparently, boiling down to how it was marked, to any data that users might be wary about. So it can definitely cut across any industry. And the transparency and the fact that it's immutable and the fact that you can always have access to it, I think it's powerful because future generations or future projects or future endeavors, you can definitely fall back on those information and still adopt them on whatever you're building next.
You've actually said it all. Transparency, the fact that it's immutable. There's an uncle of mine. He joined this agricultural cooperative, and they've been doing a couple of what is it called? They've been doing a couple of contributions to be able to see that, okay, let them be able to see that they can maybe get some money, especially for the next season. However, a sad incident happened. It got to his turn to be able to collect his money. The head of the agricultural community, they have refused to give him his own small money that he has been contributing all this while. And truly, that's where some of the contents that are actually shown has come. Last 2 weeks, I put out a content on DeFi. And truly, DeFi, you can when you apply DeFi to the agricultural sector, you see all these small Ajo, Osusu, and all these things. Obviously, you want to apply DeFi to the agricultural side. You can then say, okay, you program this smart contract in such a way that each and every single person is actually able to see what is in the wallet per time. You are not saying that maybe you are not liquid at that time. Meanwhile, there is money in the wallet, or maybe if you use the money in the wallet to do something, they will see where what you use the money to do. That means that now brings high level of transparency that actually scales this particular sector. Actually, also it says that the people are now trusting you much more and reduce fraud. Because when you look at it, if you have a group of farmers come together and say, okay, let's be able to create a token and be able to see that we use that token to actually enhance our activities, you can now see that DeFi now plays a very important role. I just saw one quick question that was dropped now, and since before we call it a wrap, let's quickly answer that question. The person asked, won't the use of gas and heaters slow the adoption of smart contracts in Africa? What do you think, Sir Henry?
Okay, so looking at this, I believe the person is talking about Ethereum network, which is very
Ah,
high. So these days it's pretty low, to be honest. It's pretty low, especially after the EIP 1559. Also,
upgrade.
um, there are different layer two blockchains. There's Polygon, Arbitrum, Optimism, and there are several other like layer 2 blockchains that are currently scaling Ethereum. And there are also cheaper blockchains like layer 2 blockchains that I just called. And there are also other blockchains, not necessarily layer 2s, that have cheaper transaction fees um, and all that. So it's mainly about understanding the blockchain that you want to be using, understanding the features of it, because some blockchains are more decentralized than others. So understanding what you are willing to forfeit on a blockchain before using it, or but they are different. There are many several cheap blockchains. It does not necessarily need to be on Ethereum mainnet. But I'll tell you of now, Ethereum mainnet transactions are pretty low. So yeah, that's how it is. Unfortunately, I mean, gas fees would need to be available on public blockchains because the gas fees keep the network running. You need miners to keep the network, to validate blocks, to add new blocks, to validate blocks. We need miners. They are doing work, and they get incentivized with this gas fee. So sometimes what was happening with Ethereum before, when the usage of the network gets very high, and then you know that this gas fee is a bidding thing, the miners go for the ones that the executors are paying more. So that kind of created a high demand, and then gas fees were going up. But these days, it's definitely not the case.
Truly, he has said it all because with after the merge, since the merge of Ethereum, implementation of all of these things, we have actually seen a very good reduction, especially with the gas fees. And you can move to blockchains like Arbitrum, which is the new blockchain optimism, to see that you build and program on this particular different blockchains. But then when you now look at it and say, okay, oh, for a farmer that has not eaten, you will be spending $30, $50 on the layer one blockchain. That's the more reason why you must follow up with trends, join webinars like this that teaches you the latest trends and what is happening and how you can actually move from the old and start taking advantage of the new. So on this particular note, we want to say thank you to you, Mr. Henry. We're extremely grateful. You've shared so much information with us, and we can't tell you thank you enough. Just before you go, any last word to the community? So we'll call it a wrap for today.
Well, I'll just say thank you very much for having me. And I'm very happy when I see people trying to learn about blockchain. Me, myself, I got into blockchain because I believe in its power, what people can use it to do. I'm interested in the topic of decentralization. I so much like DAOs. DAOs present a means for people to vote and decide their future, basically, and decide on what they want to see. And then it gives them the right based on the efforts and their how much they've spent to build the particular thing that they are voting about. So yeah, I so much keyed into that, and I always like seeing Africans get on the edge of this. We're definitely in front globally, and then yeah, it's good to be on in this community, Vorum community. Thank you so much, Rume, for having me. It's a pleasure. I'd also like to say one thing. I just started a YouTube channel. It's mainly geared towards blockchain development. So if you don't mind, if you're a Web2 developer, you're looking to learn Solidity, or you're looking to delve into blockchain space, you're looking to start building on decentralized applications, please do well to check it out. I'll try to at least leave for now once in a week content, on that regard. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. Henry, has actually been able to put together a couple of students, especially in the cohort session and all that. And just like I promised earlier, the link to that particular YouTube, we are going to fix it underneath this video once we are done with this. We're extremely grateful to you, Mr. Henry. Thank you very much. Until next time, see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye bye.